How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is Wednesday, September 4th, a fantastic Wednesday here in the great state of Wisconsin, or I hope it's a fantastic day wherever you are tuning in today. I hope the weather's nice, everything like that. Who knows, wherever you're at right now. I'm not keeping track of all that kind of weather. I got enough problems keeping up with what's going outside here. So lots of good stuff to get into today. Yesterday, if you didn't hear it, great show yesterday there with Aaron from Brutally Honest Sports. That was a great show we had yesterday. A lot of insight on the Eagles, something that we don't get a lot of. It's always my perspective on an opposing team or a Packer fan's perspective. Getting the perspective from an Eagles fan, I thought that was big. And a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of things we learned out of that. So got a lot there. A lot more to get into today. We didn't get into full recaps. I want to get into that Western Michigan game with the Badgers a little bit. Didn't get into that a lot yesterday. Didn't get into the Brewers. Brewers had a big weekend. We got into the baseball a little bit there, but not to an extent. So I want to get into the Brewers today, talk a little Packers, get into that Badger football team, see how that, what we really thought about that Badger football game now that we've had a couple days to, decompress, go to therapy, talk about our problems, maybe drink another beer. I don't know. We've had a couple days now to try and get back from that. So I want to get into that today here on the show. So right away, I want to start with the Brewers because the Brewers right now, to me, they are one of the biggest headlines in Wisconsin. Packers coming up this weekend. That's going to be huge. But the Brewers right now, I don't want them to get lost in everything that's going on outside of that, right? College football coming back, Packers starting up. I don't want the Brewers to get lost because the Brewers have been nothing but fantastic this season, and I want to get into a little bit of that today. Talk about some of the stats and some of the moves yesterday. The Brewers made a move yesterday that kind of surprised me, but thinking about it more and more, I guess I got to an understanding. So Hobie Milner came back from the injured list, spent some time down in the minors rehabbing. He was healthy, ready to go. They brought him back up. Okay, Milner's back. Paguero comes back. Okay, Paguero's back up. I never thought he honestly should have got sent down to begin with, but gets brought back up by the Brewers there. This is where the interesting part comes in, and, Bryce Wilson goes to the injured list. That was the Paguero move. So what the Brewers did is they sent down Brian Hudson. Now, I saw a lot of people over social media. Everybody was upset about it. Even me, right away I saw it, and I was like, what's going on? Like, why are the Brewers sending down Brian Hudson? I mean, we're talking about a guy in 43 games who has a 6-1 record, a 1.73 ERA. He's got 62 innings pitched and 62 strikeouts. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, so he's not hurt. Why did Brian Hudson get sent down? It doesn't make sense. It really, you get sent down, usually it's because you're struggling or, you have options, you're young, you haven't been in a lot of games. We're going to find a way to get you into games down to the minors. That's not Brian Hudson's problem. What Brian Hudson's biggest problem is his lack of usage over the years. You look all the way back. I mean, you can look at his minor league seasons there. From 2015 on to this season here. I mean, on to 2023. We'll go as far as that. The most games that he appeared in over that stretch was 46 games in 2023 at the AAA level. That's the most games he appeared in a season. Now we're talking about 43 games entering September. So Brian Hudson is one of your high leverage, high situation relievers, and he is already, maxing out in that innings department. You look at his innings over the years. He pitched 55 innings there in 2023. Now in 2018, that was when he was a starter. So it's a little bit different being out in the bullpen now. But when he was a starter, he had the 124 in 2017 and then 113 in 2018. But being predominantly out of the bullpen, which started up really in 2021, I would say, is when he transitioned more to that bullpen role. He had 35 games out of the bullpen there. 2022, he had 39 games out of the bullpen. So hasn't had a lot of time in the bullpen pitching a lot of games, right? So the Brewers are just being cautious. They saw the velocity start to drop a little bit, which if you really paid attention to it, and I had to look back over his last couple outings, watch some of the video off of there, and it has. His velocity has been a tick down, So they're worried about, the usage of Brian Hudson and not trying to, injury could happen because of the excessive usage. I mean, you look at Garrett Crochet, right? The biggest thing with him at the trade deadline for the White Sox and why teams didn't jump on him so fast. A lot of teams wanted Crochet, but the biggest thing was his usage. There was talk about him being shut down, and that was a problem. He hadn't been used a lot in the role that he was in. Now, the same thing with Brian Hudson here. He's been used a lot, 62 innings already. Impressive baseball that he's thrown so far. Impressive off the mound. But the Brewers having that big lead in the NL Central, which, leads can always diminish, right? But give them a few days off. It's one of those things where now they can bring Milner back. They can bring Paguero back. You're not having an arm out there who's just unavailable, right? Because you don't want to waste a roster spot with that. You don't want to waste a roster spot with, this guy's unavailable because he's pitched a lot of games. We're not going to use him, so we're going to leave him out of the bullpen, right? You don't want to be at that spot. You want to have fresh arms out there in the bullpen. You want to be able to mix and match if you have to. So the Brewers traded a lefty and a righty for a lefty and a righty. This isn't, Brian Hudson isn't going to be back pretty darn soon. I would expect probably a week, honestly. I would say a week. Brian Hudson will be down there. Maybe he's going to get in a few games down there, but less high leverage situations, probably no multi-inning appearances or anything like that. They're going to keep him fresh. They're going to keep him throwing in games down there, but they're going to take the pressure off. They're going to let him slowly. It's almost a rehab, but not a rehab. They just want that arm, the velocity and everything to come back for him, and then they'll bring him back up, right? And that's what they're hoping. Just a little bit of rest, everything like that. Get him ready for the stretch run. Because at this point, the way that this Brewers team is playing, they're thinking to themselves, we're going to be a playoff team, right? And we need our bullpen to be fresh. They need everybody to be fresh down the stretch, right? But they want, their bullpen arms, their starters, everything like that to be fresh down the stretch there. That's what they're trying to get with Brian Hudson here because they know the high leverage that he is. They know how important he really is to this Brewers team. So, right away, I was upset with the move, didn't understand it, thinking about it more and more, hearing what Pat Murphy had to say. He said point blank, like it was one of the toughest conversations he's had to have because he's like, this guy has done nothing but good. He's been fantastic, downright fantastic at times for one of the better relievers in baseball, if you really look at it, over the collective season. And to tell that guy, like, hey, just so you know, we're going to have to send you down here. That it isn't a conversation you would normally have with a guy like that. So it was definitely one of those things where hard to do for Pat, right? Trying to explain the situation. And hopefully Brian Hudson was good with it. He understood it. Everybody in that clubhouse in the bullpen understood it. And everything's good when he comes back. Because like I said, he's going to be back soon. He will definitely be back soon. It's just a matter of when. And I think, within a week and a half, we'll see Brian Hudson back. I don't think it's going to be like 3 days. I think it's a max. You have to be down there. I was just going to look that up. How long you have to be in the minors when you're sent down? Because I really did think there was a number. Upon being optioned in the minor leagues, a position player must remain there for a minimum of 10 days before he's eligible to be recalled to the major league roster. So Brian Hudson will be down there for at least almost a week and a half, right? And then we'll probably see Brian Hudson back up. So in that stretch, you would expect him getting some games, but for now, he's probably going to be maybe 3-4 games down there, in that stretch, maybe 5. And then that's it. You get some rest, get ready to go, get them back up, and then see how it goes from there. So definitely an interesting move by the Brewers, but understandable if you think about it in that perspective. Now, if his spot comes around in the bullpen and we can't figure out how to shut down games, okay, then it becomes a problem. Then it's like, well, why did we do it to begin with? But as of right now, understandable move until he comes back. Hopefully this Brewers team can find ways, as they have all season long, to be able to put together wins and everything like that. So that's what I got out of that move there. I saw a stat on Jackson Chourio, I just watched him hit a double there, score a run for the Brewers, and put it at a 3-3 game. He's been nothing but fantastic. But I saw, I'm talking about Jackson Chourio, it seems like all the time now. And I saw Jeff Passan actually tweeted it earlier today or yesterday there, and it was his stats over the last 3 months. So batting average in the last 3 months, he has a 319 batting average over the last 3 months there, 7th in the MLB. His on-base percentage is 372. That's good for 12th. Slugging percentage, 542. That's good for 14th. OPS at 915. That's good for 12th. He has 13 home runs in the last 3 months, 13 stolen bases, 51 RBIs, and his K percentage is at 15.8%. That's pretty. I mean, the strikeout numbers came down drastically for him. He's not chasing the balls. It seemed like early on, it seemed like a lot of breaking balls were giving him issues. Chasing pitches, right? It seems like and we knew it. He's done this at every level. It takes him a minute to get, kind of situated, get himself moved in, everything like that. And then all of a sudden he finds it, right? And then it's like, this is why this guy's the top prospect in baseball there. And that's what we've seen. It took him a little bit to get settled in. Once he found the confidence, right? And I think it has a lot to do with Pat Murphy and the rest of this ball club, the younger guys in there who have been there just recently and being able to help him, work him through it. The help of Willie Adames and William Contreras with Jackson Chourio getting him on the field, working with him out there, the work ethic, the timing, getting there on time every day, doing the little things in between. That has been huge for him, right? Having those leaders in that locker room or in that clubhouse. So Jackson Chourio, yes, I mean, he is a fantastic ball player, but I got to say his success is just as much him as it is what Pat Murphy has meant, because Pat Murphy could have given up on him. He could have said, we're going to go with, we're not going to play you today. We're going to have Yelich out there. We're going to have, Sal. We're going to have Perkins, and you're going to be on the bench because you've struggled as of late. And he could have just let him ride the pine, but he kept putting him out there and putting him out there. And maybe that was, Matt Arnold and the ownership telling him to do that. But I truthfully believe, listening to Pat, he believes in his guys. He kept putting them out there. Confidence is going to get there. He's going to get the confidence. He's just got to see it. He's got to see it. And it slowly went like that for a while. We saw spurts. We saw moments, but it wasn't like the guy we're seeing now, where it's like every at-bat, you're stopping what you're doing, you're turning up your TV. You're stopping what you're doing, you're turning up the radio, right? Don't stop on the middle of the road driving, but you know what I mean? His at-bats have been like just amplified. You just get more excited when he comes up to the plate because you don't know, right? Just like we talked about there yesterday when he hit that grand slam before anybody was on base. He told Willie Adames and Frankie Montas there that, nobody's on base yet. And he goes, if I get up to bat, I'm going to hit a grand slam. Nobody's on base. Nobody's on base. They load up the bases. He walks up there. He hits a grand slam. He's smiling, pointing him at in the dugout. Like, that is the fun baseball that the Brewers have, and the confidence that not just the clubhouse puts together, but Pat Murphy, everyone on this coaching staff, Ricky Weeks, everybody down has instilled in these guys. Because, like I said yesterday, I mean, this team, they're not supposed to be this team. They're not supposed to be this good. You look at the trade deadline moves they made for Aaron Savali, and they get Frankie Montas, and you're looking at those two deals, and you're like, did we get better? Did we truly? I mean, you look at them at the time. You look at Jacob Junis, right? He had a 2 ERA, and you traded him off for Frankie Montas, right? And you're like, well, Frankie's got a 5 ERA. Did we get better, honestly? And then we get Aaron Savali. Now, that was only it was a pretty good prospect right there. But Gregory Barros, I believe, is the prospect that the Brewers ended up dealing there. But you look at that trade, and you're like, did we get better in that deal, right? And Savali has been solid. Has he been great for the Brewers? I don't think he's been great, but he's been solid, right? Serviceable. And same with Montas. Has been solid. Has he been no-hitter, a fantastic ace of the staff? No. But he's been solid. He's been serviceable. I mean, the moves that they made point you in a direction of, this is a team that's saying, well, we're in the ballpark of doing it, but we're not quite there, so we're just going to make small moves and see what happens. This team just took that and ran with it. And they said, well, we can do it, right? Aaron Ashby, he comes up, he's in the bullpen now, and he's pitching like Corbin Burns in 2018 out of the bullpen, right? I mean, if that's the case, if that's what Aaron Ashby is going to be good at, is you throw him into the bullpen and everything's right with the world again, fantastic. Like, I'll take that, right? I mean, yeah, I wanted to see Aaron Ashby turn into this great starter. I wanted him to be a top of the rotation guy when they gave him that money and said, hey, run with it. He hasn't been that guy. But in the bullpen, he's been solid. He's been solid for him ever since coming back up. So, I mean, all in all, what Jackson Chourio has been able to do, what this Brewers team has been able to do over the last month, over the last couple months, over this season as a whole, downright fantastic. Has been nothing but fantastic. So, my last thing that I want to talk about with the Brewers there, Bryce Terang, they keep mentioning him in the leadoff spot and should they move him, should they not. Bryce Terang has struggled this season. Not this season, right? Early on, he was perfectly fine. But down the stretch here, after the All-Star break, Bryce Terang has kind of went downhill. And a lot of Brewer fans are like, okay, why is this guy, why are we still messing around with him in that leadoff spot? We should probably, move somebody else up like Jackson Chourio or Blake Perkins. What should we do in this situation? So you look at Terang, actually has been hitting better. Over the last 7 games, he's at 292. Over the last 15, he's batting 264. What I would do is exactly, and I guess I'm just, going with the crowd here. In Murphy, I trust. I would do what Murphy's doing right now. And when there's a lefty on the mound, Terang bats in my 9 spot. When there's a righty on the mound, I lead off with Terang. He's one of your best gloves, right, in the infield, if not the best glove in the infield. And you don't want to lose that. And then, I mean, all in all, you look at him from a base running perspective. When he gets on, he's a threat, right? I mean, last night we watched him double down the left field line, and it was just a little dribbler, but putting the ball in play. He still puts the ball in play. That's the big thing, is he's still putting the ball in play. The strikeout numbers have gone up a little bit as the season has progressed here. But all in all, I mean, I would honestly, to answer that question, which I've seen a lot of people asking with Bryce Terang, I would keep it exactly like Murphy's doing right now. I would cycle it lefty and righty. He's at top of the order against righties. When he faces the lefty there, he's at the bottom of the order. Maybe in the 8, maybe in the 9, but he's in one of those 2 spots. When, the lefty's on the mound, then I'm floating up the names of, let's just say, Jackson Chourio, Blake Perkins in that leadoff spot. Those would be the 2 guys I'd float around in that spot there, because those guys, I mean, they're guys who, Jackson Chourio on a burner right now. I'd keep him in the 2-hole. But Perkins is a guy who can put the ball in play. And so you look at that leadoff spot, if you wanted to, move it around against righties, you could throw Sal Frelick in that leadoff spot. Now, I know a lot of people aren't impressed by Sal. I think Sal's a solid ball player. All in all, solid ball player. Puts the ball in play. Yeah, is it always solid contact? No, I mean, he's one of those guys who he just seems to poke the ball out there. And over the last 7 games, he's batting .320. Over the last 15 games, he's batting .283. And over the last 30 games, he's batting .277. Sal Frelick has been good for the Brewers here. The strikeout numbers, 12 strikeouts in the last 30 games. That's impressive, right? Not striking out at a high clip, putting the baseball in play, making things happen. And he's a guy, when he gets on, he can steal bases for you. So I would not be opposed to, if the Brewers do decide at some point, like, hey, let's move Bryce Terang out of that leadoff spot, I would not be opposed to seeing Sal Frelick get moved up to that top spot in the order. Is he going to give you the long ball threat at the top of the order? No, he's not. I don't think Terang gives you that, down, unless the bases are loaded, right? We saw him go on a torrid pace there with the bases loaded, hitting grand slams. But, is he going to give you that home run threat? No. I think the only one right now that we've seen, well, besides Contreras when they decided to put him in the leadoff spot, outside of when they did that, they don't have that guy that you throw up in that top of the order and say, go hit home runs for me. You want a guy up there who's going to set the table for Jackson, for Willie Adames, for William Contreras, or even Gary Sanchez or Rhys Hoskins if he gets going. You want those guys in that top half. You want those guys who are on base guys. Sal Frelick is that guy. If you do throw Jackson Chourio up, he's definitely that guy. Bryce Terang can be that guy. I'm not completely throwing in the towel on Bryce Terang. Nobody get me wrong. I'm not throwing a towel. What I was saying is you could cycle this lineup between Sal and Terang in that leadoff spot. Take some pressure off Terang. Maybe if he goes down to that 5 spot or 6 spot, wherever Sal usually bats there, and you move Sal to leadoff spot for a little bit, maybe that takes some of the pressure off Terang. He finds that bat again, finds that stick, and everything's good. Those are the ways that I would do it right now, to be honest. Like I said, you don't want to mess with what's working, and it's working, right? It's working right now. I'm just saying there's little tweaks. There's little tweaks you could make. Those would be some of the little tweaks I would make. Nothing major. Maybe flip Sal and Terang around. But right now, if he rides with Terang at the top of the order, I'm good with it. Because if Terang finds it, he starts getting on, he's definitely a stolen base threat. He's definitely setting the table for the rest of this lineup there. So with that, let's get to the sponsors of the show here quick before we move on. First, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. Also, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville, Wisconsin there. Marshfield Motor Speedway is located just 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Get down there this summer. Yeah, tons of family fun still to be had down there. Great food, great drinks, great atmosphere. Nothing better than a great summer day or night down at the track there. Marshfield Motor Speedways, your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy Sue or Anna to find your dream home or if you're looking to sell. Find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield there. Sports Scene, sports cards, and memorabilia located in the Marshfield Mall in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Get in there and see Al. He has everything you need, from sporting cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cards. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield, and also Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood, Wisconsin. If you've been injured recently, whether it was playing with the kids, playing with the dogs, maybe you're mowing the lawn, pulling weeds, who knows what you were doing out there. You were picking tomatoes out of your garden there, and you felt something tear, pop, didn't feel right. You went to the doctor. They said you better go see a physical therapist. I cannot tell you anyone better out there than Chad there at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood, Wisconsin. He'll get you right. He'll get you back to work, back mowing the lawn, doing whatever you're doing, feeling better than ever. Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood, Wisconsin there. So let's get to the Packers here. Just a little bit on the Packers for the day. We did see the first injury report come out, and I guess one of the not surprising ones as of right now, Marshawn Lloyd, running back, still out with that hamstring injury, has not practiced Tuesday. Yes, as of yesterday, did not practice there for the Packers. Outside of that, we did see Edgerrin Cooper was on the injury report. He was limited participation there in practice. Romeo Doubs with a hand injury, limited. Carrington Valentine with a hamstring, he was limited. And also Emmanuel Wilson with a hip injury, he was limited at practice there. Minor injuries for the Green Bay Packers there. Nothing crazy, right? That's the big thing. Nothing crazy there. I would expect to see everybody but Lloyd, unless if something else happens, everybody but Lloyd on Friday for the Green Bay Packers there. Looking at the Eagles injury report, A.J. Brown, wide receiver, he was resting. He's a resting player is what they call it. Limited participation. Landon Dickerson, the guard for him there, he was limited on Tuesday. Isaiah Rodgers, cornerback, was limited, and so was Devin White, linebacker, with an ankle. He was limited. How does he have an ankle issue? He didn't play. I don't think he played in the preseason. How is Devin White out here with an ankle injury right now? What did he do? Step out of the car and roll it? Like what? Okay. I guess, practice injuries do happen, but Devin White also on that injury report for the Eagles there. Honestly, the Packers completely just getting rid of their strength and conditioning coaches from last year. moving on from that. I mean, you look at the Packers last season, and it was like, who isn't injured at some point for this team? Everybody seemed to be injured, and it's like, what is going on in Green Bay? It seemed like it's been a trend. Packers can't keep guys healthy, whether it's from the offensive line to the defensive line and the cornerback room to the wide receivers, running backs, everybody. It seemed like everybody was getting banged up for this Packers team. Well, in the offseason, they said, enough's enough with that. If it is the problem, if it isn't the problem, we got to find new guys to try and get these guys healthy and ready to go. So in the offseason, I mean, everybody that they had in that room between the strength and conditioning team, they fired them all. They fired them all there. They hired all new guys there. I thought that was fantastic. Aaron Hill is the coordinator. Todd Hunt is the assistant. Marcus Jones is an assistant. And Ben Schumacher is also an assistant there. I thought that was the smartest thing, the best thing they did is when it doesn't even seem like it's a big thing, but it's big, right? Christian Watson finally seems like he's healthy. He's going to be ready to go. Now, he hasn't really played in the game yet. He hasn't seen true contact, game situation like that yet, but he's healthy, right? He's ready to go. That's the big one for me because I see a lot of, analysts out there, they talking Jordan Love for MVP and everything like that. I really do think if Jordan Love's going to win MVP, Christian Watson's got to be healthy because Jordan Love's not going to win this MVP on his legs, right? He's not that kind of mover. He's going to get some rushing yards, but he's not that big of a mover in, coming out of the pocket. So he's going to win it on his arm. And if he's going to do that, he needs to have his receivers healthy. And a big one is Christian Watson because, like we always say, you need a guy in that room who can blow the top off of a defense, who guys will have to respect out there in the secondary for that very nature. That is Christian Watson. He is, a freak of an athlete when he's out there, right? He just seems like he's made of stringing beads out there, and if you cut the string, the beads all go all over the place, right? He just seems like he's just all stringy and everything like that, but as we've seen from right now and what he said, Christian Watson feels healthier than ever. That is a big note onto a lot of offseason preparation, finally trying to figure out what was causing all them hamstring problems, and also getting a new room of strength and conditioning coaches that can help boost them, get them ready to go every Sunday, and help them recover after the fact. That is huge stuff. So love to see that, especially on an injury report. I mean, talking about an injury report where everybody outside of Marshawn Lloyd is active and is participating in practice, that's big. I mean, yeah, the Eagles have everybody there, but having everybody in the room on that 53-man roster is a huge step forward for the Green Bay Packers, something we haven't seen in a while. So great stuff there in the injury report room there. So, I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday there, but I finally saw an interesting post, and this was from, I believe it was from Albert Breer there. He reported that the NFL security advised the Eagles and Packers to stay at hotel during Brazil trip. They have been provided with a list of do's and don'ts. They were told not to walk outside with their phones, not to respond to any weird text. Who's texting us? Who's texting, Jordan Love middle of the night, and Jordan Love's like, what's up, dude? It just seems this whole thing is just nuts. It is nuts. I mean, I have never, they go over to Germany or whatever, and they go overseas there. And I don't hear of any of this madness, right? And they went down, I remember, was it the Texans that played down in Mexico City? They played down in Mexico there. And I think it was Brock Osweiler was the quarterback, and they had lasers up there in the stands, and they were shining it into his eyes, and there was all kinds of problems with that. And, I mean, just so many problems. And if they're true or not, okay, that's fine. If everybody's just trying to make Brazil seem like it's the worst place in the world, I guess so, if that's the way you want to shake it. But I look at all these reports like, don't wear green. Nobody can wear green. That was the first report. And now it was Darius Slay saying he told his family to stay home. And they were told to have their family stay home. It's not safe for them. And now it's don't answer any texts that you could get down there. Don't walk outside the hotel with your phone. Don't do this. It just seems like it's a disaster, honestly. Like, there's so much outside noise leading up into this game here that, I mean, I don't think it's going to affect the game that much player wise, but it's just so much, I mean, craziness, honestly, leading up into this where you're like, is it actually safe for the Green Bay Packers to fly all the way down there and play a football game? Is it safe for the Philadelphia Eagles to go down there? Like Aaron said yesterday on the show here, Aaron from Brutally Honest Sports there. I mean, he was talking about it and he said, these are some high priced guys, right? These are some guys who are worth a little bit of money. They're, I mean, dang near some of them are celebrity, everybody knows them. They've seen them around the world. Putting them in a situation like that, if it's truthfully this dangerous, man, I mean, that's just, I guess you're getting paid big bucks to go down there. The NFL's getting paid big bucks, but when you're risking players, that's a different story there. So hopefully there's nothing goes wrong and every one of these reports is just like whatever, they can just brush it off. But man, for, them to tell like Slay telling his family to stay home and I guarantee you a lot of these guys telling their families to stay home, don't travel, don't come down to this game. It's just one of those weird situations that you hope nothing comes out of it, but you're like, why are we putting ourselves in this situation? Like, yes, I get money, I get dollar signs, I get, cool locations to play and everything like that. And the teams probably get something out of it and everything like that. But you could have this game in Philadelphia and, I mean, yeah, we'd have to deal with Philly fans, right? They're all nuts, right? But it wouldn't be as bad. Now we're talking about all the bad that can come out of this, and it's like, man, oh man, I mean, just an interesting storyline that we've been hearing about. So, last but not least, with the Packers here, I just wanted to talk about, Jair Alexander was in the news, and a good thing. Before I get into this here, it was a good thing. It was a good thing for Jair there, and that was, so Packers sign a new kicker, right? We all know Narveson is now the new kicker in Green Bay. And they were talking to Matt LaFleur a little bit, and they got Jair Alexander's take on it. And Jair said in an interview with The Athletic with Matt Schneidman there, Matt LaFleur said his first kick was a 56-yarder into the wind, and he nailed it there. And Jair actually, after a couple of his kicks, came up to Matt and he said, man, I love this guy. The early returns are very favorable up to this point. So, I mean, for Jair, I mean, he's seen enough already. He saw the kicking, he saw it last season with Carlson. He saw the kicking competition with Carlson and Joseph over the summer. And now he sees Narveson and he's like, that's my guy. That's my guy. Like, I've seen enough out of this guy right now to say this dude is going to be something, right? 56 yards into the wind, that's impressive, right? So you're hoping that's going to carry over. It's one of those things that carries over into the season. But you love when your players are starting to get behind guys, because when Carlson was kicking, I didn't hear anybody, saying, I didn't hear anybody saying they lost faith in him, but I didn't hear anything like that. Like Jair coming out and saying, I love this guy, right? You didn't hear anything about that. Now it's more amplified now because, they get rid of both their kickers who they had in the summer, and then they end up getting a different guy there in Narveson. But it's one of those things where you don't hear a lot of news coming out about a kicker, right? And guys getting this excited about it. But Matt LaFleur seems like he's loving what he's seen on Narveson. Nothing bad I've heard from out of camp or anything like that about Narveson. And then also for Jair to say something about it too. That is huge. That is huge to me. So I love that, and hopefully Narveson is the answer, because the Packers desperately need an answer there at the kicking spot, especially with what we saw last year with Carlson. For some reason, I'm scrolling through the internet, and I saw that replay of the Packers were up against the 49ers, 21-17 at the time there, and Carlson missed that kick. 49ers eventually went down, scored, made it out of reach for Green Bay, and they couldn't come back in that game. So that was definitely a kick that we see it now. He's gone, right? Carlson is gone there. So that's about all I got for Packers there. Just a little bit of tidbits there for the day. We're going to get more into the Packers. Like I always say, as the week goes on here, there'll be more that happens inside of that locker room and getting ready for the Brazil game, hopefully hopefully it's a safe trip for the Green Bay Packers. That's all we can hope for, because I want to see, we paid Jordan Love all this money. I want to see him come back to Green Bay after that trip to Brazil. Unless if he sucks, then they can keep him. Then they can keep him down there. They can keep whoever stinks down there. But until then, he can come back. He can come back there. So with that, I want to get to the Badgers. We didn't get into much of a full team recap yesterday there on the show of that Western Michigan game. So I wanted to touch into it today here. So the big thing that I saw coming out of last Friday's game there against Western Michigan was watching Tyler Van Dyke. And, the biggest thing that I said in my season preview and everything like that was Tyler Van Dyke was going to have to play like the Tyler Van Dyke that we saw early on in his days at Miami. If he played good, this Badger team was going to look good because they have the weapons in the room. Tyler Van Dyke did not impress me. 21 for 36, 192 yards, 5.3 was the average there passing on the day. No touchdowns, no interceptions, a 48.8 QBR for Tyler Van Dyke. It was not impressive. Not impressive to me watching him out there. I thought, honestly, I saw a lot of comments on this, but the dairy raid or air raid, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely not anything that I've seen yet. I haven't seen this air raid offense fully come into, that's what we're running, right? I heard about it. Phil Longo was coming, and it was going to be this air raid offense, and the Badgers were going to be passing the ball. It was going to be a gunslinging offense, and we were going to utilize weapons like that, and it wasn't going to be such heavy on the run, and it was going to be this, and it was going to be that. I haven't seen it. I haven't. A big reason why last season was Tanner Mordecai. Tanner Mordecai was not anywhere near what I thought the Badgers were getting in Tanner Mordecai. You look at his numbers coming over from SMU, I thought this is going to be a huge boost for the Badgers. Yes, he can run, but he can also sling the ball around a little bit. He did not impress me. And my biggest worry right now is this guy in Tyler Van Dyke is Tanner Mordecai 2.0. He's not a runner, right? And he's hesitant in the pocket, stepping up, was not on the same page as the receivers. So it leads you to question then, okay, was it just that first game jitters? When we get to South Dakota, is it going to be better? Because if it's not better against South Dakota, you guys think it's really going to be better when he goes and faces Alabama? Like he's just going to all of a sudden, and maybe that's the truth. Maybe it does happen. Some guys are better in big games. Maybe it's going to take the big game for him to figure it out. But my worry is, okay, he struggled against Western Michigan. Honestly, the Badgers struggled against Western Michigan on the offensive side. Some of it was play calling. I am not going to let Phil Longo and Luke Fickell off the hook in this game here. I thought play calling wasn't good in this game. Honestly, the defensive front for Western Michigan ate the offensive line for the Badgers alive, right? They were faster. They got around the Badgers, and this line for the Badgers wasn't holding up. Wasn't holding up for me. So was that part of the issue too? Because the pocket did seem to kind of collapse on Tyler Van Dyke a couple times there. Was that an issue? The offensive line giving Tyler Van Dyke the time. Now, that could be, the lack of getting real competition there for the offensive line, full-on game speed, different players coming up against them there, kind of younger guys in the room, not as much experience altogether. Was that part of the problem in this game for the offensive line? Because I did not think the offensive line was that great in this game. They had moments, right, but they weren't great. So that would be one of those things where, okay, you can't blame it completely on Tyler Van Dyke. I thought the offensive line wasn't completely held together. Phil Longo struggled in the play calling department. And then also, you can't let Luke Fickell off the hook then because he is, overseeing it all, right? He's the main man. So Tyler Van Dyke struggled. We got to see something more against South Dakota. And this is my honest opinion. This is just me being honest. If the quarterback competition in the spring, in the summer, into the fall here, now leading up into week one, if the quarterback competition between Braden Locke and Tyler Van Dyke was that close. If they go into that game against South Dakota and Tyler Van Dyke is struggling, I want to see Braden Locke. I'll be honest, I want to see him. Because if he comes out, and if Tyler Van Dyke comes out against South Dakota and he's struggling, if he's struggling like he did early on against Western Michigan there, I want to see Braden Locke for a drive, for 2 drives. See him get in there, see what he can do. If he impresses, now you know, because you're going to face Alabama the week after, and if your offense looks like they did against Western Michigan against Alabama, that won't be a game at halftime. You are lucky that Western Michigan was Western Michigan in that game, that they didn't have the dynamic offense, that they didn't have that top defense in the SEC, that they weren't one of those teams. You were lucky for that. You were lucky for that muff punt there. Because if that punt doesn't hit off that guy, I don't remember exactly which player it was from Western Michigan. He probably feels like a doorknob at this point, so I don't want to mention his name. I feel bad for him. But if that ball doesn't go off his leg, what are we talking about today, right? What are we talking about today? What are we talking about after the weekend was over and we're like, the Badgers lost, right? Because of, the offense wasn't good. And Western Michigan just found ways. A win is a win. I said that point blank on social media and everything like that. I said a win is a win. You find ways to win games. That's what you got to do, right? This was a solid Western Michigan. They weren't good, right? They weren't good. I'm not going to say Western Michigan could have stood toe-to-toe with Alabama. I'm not going to say they could have stood toe-to-toe with Ohio State. But what I'm saying is Western Michigan's a solid team. They're not a great team. They went toe-to-toe with you, and, at some points in this game, looked better than you were. South Dakota can't do that. They can't. Honestly, if South Dakota makes you look like this game, if you see a repeat of this against South Dakota, close game, Badgers struggling to move the football, the offensive line doesn't look great. If you see this against South Dakota, Alabama's definite loss. USC's a definite loss. Oregon's a definite loss. Penn State look good, definite loss. It's one of those things where I want to be as optimistic as possible, but if this struggle that they had in week 1 continues throughout the season, it worries you, right? But you look at it from the opposite perspective, which is the way I want to look at it, and that is it's week 1, right? It's week 1. You played a solid team. They weren't great, but they're a solid team in Western Michigan. They gave you everything you could handle. You found a way to win that game. Whether it was by pure luck or whatever it is, you found a way to win that game. You move on. You have a notepad, a big old notepad now, right? You got a notepad sitting there, and it is, there's 100 pages, and about 98 of them are filled with things that you should be talking about this week if you're Luke Fickell, to adjust, to fix on this offense, on this defense. I thought defense was pretty solid in this game, honestly. I thought Four Queen showed up. Jaheim Thomas was fantastic. Jake Chaney was solid for him there. Also, Hunter Wohler was Hunter Wohler. There's nothing more you can say about him there. And Ricardo Hallman, you didn't hear his name. Ricardo Hallman, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if he was targeted, he was only targeted once in the entire game there. So that was impressive, right? Ricardo Hallman's being Ricardo Hallman. The Badgers defensively, I thought were solid. Now, it's one of those things where it was Western Michigan, so you got to see it against a good team now, see what this defense can really do. But for a first time out, I thought the defense was solid. I'm looking for the South Dakota game, see another solid performance out of the defense, and the offense to take a big step forward. Plain and simple, the offense, I got to see them in that passing game. In this air raid offense, I have to see the air raid offense, because right now I am lost at the offense. If they call it an air raid, it's not an air raid in my book. It is, you look at this last game, 46 carries in total to 21, 46 carries to 36 passes. That's heavy on the run, right? And that's what was working. Ches Malusi, 74 yards. Tyree Walker was 66 yards. But you got to be able to spread the field, right? The biggest thing that I always heard from Badger fans over the years was when they were that heavy run team was that you're so one-dimensional. How are you going to, get past Ohio State or any of these teams if you can't throw the ball around. That's what when Phil Longo came in, I got excited. I was like, we're going to get to this more pass heavy, some shotgun pistol handoffs, right? Some of that kind of stuff, but heavy in the pass. I haven't seen it, right? And some games you can't be heavy in the pass. Some games you need to be able to run the ball, but they need to be able to throw the ball consistently. And, the big hitters, they don't have, you look at this last game, there was no big hitters in that game. You look at the longs in this game. The long was 17. Will Pauling had a pass for 17 yards. That was the long on the game. Outside of that, you're talking 14 yards for Ashcraft, Kiowana. He had a 14-yard pass. Nowakowski had a 13-yard pass. Green caught an 11-yard pass. That was your longs on the game. That's not an air raid offense. Air raid, we're trying to blow the top off the defense, and when we have to, we're bringing it back, right? It's a mix. It's a mixed bag of chocolates there, but you constantly have routes that are running down the field. You look at Wisconsin. There's constant routes where there's a guy heading down the field, across the field, deeper down the field there, trying to find openings because you want the big hitter. That's what you're looking for is the big hitter. That's not what we saw. That's not what we've seen. So can Tyler Van Dyke be that guy? And if he can't be that guy, and you don't want to completely throw away the season, you don't want this season to end up like we saw last season there, because I was not impressed by Mordecai. You might have been, I wasn't. You have to look at your options then. If Braden Locke was that close with Tyler Van Dyke in the camp, I want to see some Braden Locke against South Dakota because you might need to change it up. You might have to. Now, that's getting ahead of myself, right? Because Tyler Van Dyke's only one game into it. Like I said, I want to see him against South Dakota. I want to see him against South Dakota. I repeated myself there. I want to see him against South Dakota. I'm not saying to completely just switch it up right now. What I'm saying is put him out there. First half, if he's anywhere near shaky or if it's a performance like this, I am telling you right now, I want to see Braden Locke in there. I want to see Braden Locke get some minutes. I want to see him get some downs in there and see what he can do. Because if he runs the offense better than Tyler Van Dyke does when it comes to game situation, why not play him? Why not give him the football and give yourself the best chance you could possibly have to pull off a major upset against Alabama at home? It's already going to be tough as is. Why would you make it tougher by rolling out your starting quarterback who you wanted by a third week? You want him out there to the third week after he struggled week 1 and 2 against two subpar teams. You're going to roll him out week 3 against Alabama. What do you think's going to happen, right? I want to see him step up big in this game. I want to see Tyler Van Dyke play well. What I'm saying is, if he doesn't, I want to see the Badgers work through their options. I want to see them work through their options all the way around. I want them to get to the point in this South Dakota game, which we're going to get into more later on this week about South Dakota, a little bit of a preview for that game and everything like that. But I want to see them go into this South Dakota game and be able to see some of the running backs, see some of the cornerbacks, the linebackers, defensive linemen, everybody like that. I want to see them work through linemen, everything like that, and try to find bits and pieces that maybe would fit better, in some of the schemes, in some of the situations, or even all in all on first team outside of second team, because I believe there's guys who could step up and fill voids in there. So with that, that's about all I got for today, right? That's about all I got. It was a great day. Brewers will be in action today here. I believe I was just going to double check on the time of that, the start time for that game as they wrap up this series here with the Cardinals. That'll be a 6:40 game between the Brewers and Cardinals here coming up tonight, and then they'll have the day off, and then the Rockies coming up on Friday there. So a big week. Packers coming up here later on this week, Friday. We're going to get more into the Packers. We're going to get more into the Badgers against South Dakota. Lots of good stuff to get into this week here on the show. So with that, like I always say, if you can, like, subscribe, tell your friends about the show. That'd definitely be appreciated if you let everybody know, hey, this is where I heard this is where I heard this. That'd definitely be great because I'd love to hear some of you guys' thoughts on everything. Leave a review underneath of the podcast here. Otherwise, go in the bio, click send us a text message. In the bio there. In there, it'll send us directly to us here on the show. There we'll be able to answer questions, thoughts, everything like that you had about the show, improvements, anything you're thinking Wisconsin sports, and anything like that there. So with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. But until I talk to you guys again tomorrow, deuces.
Yeah, oh my Lord, watch me sway. Darkness falls and we all pray, hoping for the light of day. Down to the river I have held the devil's hand, felt the weight of my own sin, burdened by the heart of man. Down to the river, down to the river. Oh, bury me, carry me